As the rain danced on the zinc roof of his hilltop villa in Enugu, Obinna Nwoke, one of the wealthiest tech moguls in West Africa, stared through the window in deep thought. He had founded TerraLink Technologies, a company now worth billions. His garage boasted imported luxury vehicles, and the media praised him as a genius. Yet, in the silence of his palatial home, Obina felt empty. His wife Amaka only smiled when she flaunted new jewelry. His daughter, Chioma, was more interested in Instagram than her studies. Only his son, Chijioke, a quiet 17-year-old who preferred sketching and reading, ever seemed to notice his emotional absence. At dinner, the lavish table was filled with gold-plated cutlery and gourmet food, but not a single word of warmth passed between them except Chijioke's soft voice asking, "Dad, are you okay?" Obina smiled weakly, hiding his growing despair. That night, he made a life-altering decision. He called his loyal assistant, Ifeanyi, with one simple command: shut it all down. The companies, the accounts, everything. I need to find the truth without the weight of money. Ifeanyi hesitated but obeyed. A test had begun. The next morning, Obinna summoned his family to the living room. Amaka walked in, adjusting her silk nightgown with irritation. Chioma trailed in, phone in hand. Chijioke quietly sat near his father. "I've lost everything," Obinna said. "The company collapsed. Our assets are frozen. We must leave this house today." Amaka screamed, "What nonsense is this? You can't lose billions overnight." Chioma shrieked, "You expect me to live like a commoner? In a village?" Only Chijioke asked, "Is this true, Dad?" Obinna nodded. Their new destination? A forgotten family home in Inyuko, a dusty rural town miles from any luxury. The reactions were brutal. Amaka insulted him. Chioma threatened to stay with her boyfriend. But Chijioke quietly packed his father's bag. By sunset, they left in an old Peugeot Ifeanyi had bought from a second-hand lot. The gate of luxury closed behind them. Ahead, dust and truth awaited. After hours of bumpy roads and Amaka's endless complaints, they finally arrived in Inyuko. The sun had dipped behind the hills, casting orange light over the simple clay house that stood like a forgotten relic in Obina's family compound. The house had been his late grandfather's, built with mud bricks, a corrugated iron roof, and one solar lantern that barely held a charge. Amaka stood motionless, her mouth ajar. This is where we're supposed to live?" Chioma, covered in dust, refused to step out of the car. "This place smells like roasted yams and goat dung. I'm not doing this, Daddy." Obinna ignored their reactions. "This is home now. We manage here until further notice." Only Chijioke helped carry their bags. The house creaked as they opened the termite-eaten wooden door. Inside, cobwebs hung like curtains, and the only furniture was a worn-out mat, 2 plastic chairs, and an old wooden bench. The air was thick with disuse. Amaka refused to enter. "I'm not stepping into that shrine," she said. "I'd rather sleep in the car." Chioma hissed, "I should have gone with Desmond. At least he has a penthouse in Lekki." Only Chijioke rolled up his sleeves and got to work. That night, with the sound of crickets filling the darkness, the family lay on the mat, with mosquitoes as unwelcome lullabies. But as Obina stared at the cracked ceiling, Chijioke whispered, "It will get better, Dad. I believe you." Those words, small and soft, were the only light in Obina's world. Morning came with the village rooster's cry, a sound Amaka called spiritual harassment. Obinna stepped out with a hoe slung across his shoulder. "We have to farm if we want to eat," he said. Amaka scoffed. "Obinna, do I look like someone who farms? I used to have a maid just for my pets." Chioma wore a head wrap and sunglasses, still trying to connect to Wi-Fi. "There's no TikTok here. This is modern exile," she muttered. When Obina started digging the land, his hands blistered. He hadn't worked with tools in decades. Chijioke joined him, gently correcting his grip. "I watch the farm boys during holidays," he said with a shy smile. Meanwhile, Amaka was eyeing the local square, where a group of women gossiped beneath a mango tree. Among them was Chief Ugochukwu, a well-fed man in Agbada with a gold tooth and a belly that spoke of power and palm wine. He laughed heartily, and Amaka's eyes twinkled with a mix of curiosity and desperation. "Who's that?" she whispered to a local woman. "That's Chief Ugo, owns half the land here, and he's looking for a new wife," the woman replied. Amaka adjusted her wrapper, smeared lip gloss on cracked lips, and said, "A closed door is just another reason to look for the back window." She had spotted her escape while her husband dug in the dirt. Amaka didn't waste time. The next day, she wore her best ankara and went to the square with a basket of yams she didn't plan to sell. Chief Ugo noticed her instantly. "You're not from here," he said, smiling behind his gold tooth. "A woman of class like you doesn't belong among these village leaves." Amaka fluttered her lashes. "My husband dragged us here after losing everything. Life has been hard." Ugochukwu chuckled. "A fine woman like you shouldn't suffer." He waved his cane and his boys fetched her a bottle of malt from the chief's private stash. By evening, Amaka was laughing under his umbrella, sipping cold drinks while Obina and Chijioke returned from the farm soaked in sweat. She whistled a tune she hadn't sung in years, lying that she had joined the women's fellowship. Chijioke didn't believe her fingers were too clean for water duty. That night, as Obina struggled to light firewood, Chijioke helped him arrange the sticks. "Don't worry, Dad, she'll come around." But Obina knew better. He had seen the same look in Amaka's eyes when she first spotted money. Love, he realized, had a price tag for some. By the third day in Nwoke, Chioma had made it her mission to look fabulous in a village where fashion was defined by rubber slippers and faded wrappers. She wandered around in a tight green dress she'd secretly kept from the mansion, drawing stares and whispers. That was when Mazi Kelechi, a married man who ran a thriving palm wine joint, noticed her. "You shine like city light in this dusty place," he said, offering her a cold bottle. Chioma, craving attention and anything that resembled her old life, smiled. "At least someone in this bush village recognizes value." Mazi Kelechi laughed heartily. "Come and sit in my shop anytime. I'll take care of you." And so began Chioma's flirtation with the village's married elite. Mazi Kelechi would sneak her meat pies, data vouchers, and little brown envelopes of naira notes. Chioma didn't ask questions. All she wanted was a taste of luxury, even if it came with broken vows. Back home, Obina and Chijioke had begun to clear more land for cassava. Chijioke even carved a wooden bench by hand. Meanwhile, Amaka continued dressing up for meetings with the chief, who had promised her a palace life if she played her cards right. But behind the thick walls of Golden Palm Lodge, Chief Ugo's true nature was hidden under perfume, promises, and pretenses. Amaka's visits to Golden Palm Lodge became frequent. Every afternoon, she'd bathe with the last bit of her imported shower gel and spray herself with perfume she'd once reserved for gala nights in Abuja. The receptionist Ngozi knew to let her in without question. Chief Ugochukwu's room was always ready, with cold malt, grilled meat, and soft music. "You're more beautiful every time you come," the chief would say, rubbing his bulging belly. One day, as Amaka laid her head on his chest, he whispered, "I've sent my second wife away. For you. You will be Queen Amaka when I become king of this village." Her heart skipped. Queen. It had a nice ring to it. Meanwhile, at the compound, Chioma complained loudly about the heat, the food, and the fact that there was no full-length mirror. "I'm fading, Daddy," she cried one morning. Obina ignored her. But it wasn't just discomfort making Chioma restless. It was guilt. Deep down, she knew what she was doing with Mazi Kelechi was wrong. But guilt didn't pay for data. Guilt didn't bring cold drinks. One night, as the family gathered around a lantern, Obina looked around. Amaka sat far from him, her eyes on her phone. Chioma smacked her gum, scrolling through offline pictures. Only Chijioke sat beside him, sketching by the dim light. Obina felt like a ghost in his own family. Obina's test was working, but not the way he'd hoped. Instead of discovering love beneath the ashes, he found greed in full bloom. That morning, the entire compound buzzed with whispers. Amaka had been seen walking out of the lodge, arm in arm with Chief Ugo. The wives had noticed. Neka, Ugochukwu's most vocal wife, stormed into the village square. "So it's the city woman that's been taking our husband?" she shouted. "The one who came here claiming to suffer?" News spread like wild bushfire. Back at the house, Chijioke watched his mother dress up again. "Where are you going, Mum?" he asked softly. "To see the pastor's wife," she lied. "But you stopped going to church 2 years ago," Chijioke replied quietly. Amaka ignored him. That evening she returned with perfume on her skin and smoked meat in a nylon bag. "A friend gifted me," she said when Obina asked. He nodded, but Chijioke knew gifts don't come wrapped in shame. As she lay down that night, Amaka heard the whispers outside her window, mocking laughter, village gossip, but the biggest noise came from within, a voice reminding her of the queen she once thought she was, now lost in the dust of Nduko. The next day, the storm finally broke. Mama and Kem, wife to Mazi Kalechi, burst into their compound like a hurricane, wrapper flying and voice raised. "Where is that Ashao that calls herself Kioma?" she screamed. Chioma stepped out, slowly pulling her plastic earrings off. "Madam, lower your voice. This is not a motor park." The two exchanged words that scraped the village air like broken glass. "You're destroying homes for meat pie and hot bomb," Mama Kim cried. "You want to be a second wife at 21? Chioma laughed. "Your husband is the one chasing me. Go and leash your dog." Obina had heard everything. He stepped out silently. "Chioma," he said, voice barely a whisper. "Is it true?" She shrugged. "What if it is?" Obina's chest rose. "I raised you to know better. You raised us to love money," she snapped. "Now that there's none, you're shocked we're surviving?" She stormed inside. Obina sat on the bench, head bowed. Behind him, Chijioke stood, watching his father break. The test he'd created had uncovered a bitter truth. The rot had been growing long before the riches left. 2 days later, Amaka stormed home, her wrapper half-tied, her face streaked with dust and shame. She had fought Neka, the chief's wife, in broad daylight after being publicly called a market mistress. Children laughed. Adults whispered. Someone even recorded it on a technophone. At home, Obina met her at the door. "Grace and elegance have left you," he said. "What are you now, Amaka?" She barked back. "The woman you failed. You made me this way. Poverty made me this way." "No," Obina said calmly. "You chose this, like you chose the chief. Like Keoma chose the married man." She turned and spat on the ground. "You are a failure, Obina, and you will die in this failure." The next morning, Obina and Chijioke packed their things. "We're leaving for the city," he told them. "I got a job as a gatekeeper. It's not much, but it's honest work." Amaka laughed hysterically. "A gatekeeper? You want me to follow you and become Madam Gate?" Obina smiled. "I didn't ask you to come." With that, he and Chijioke disappeared into the dawn. They left behind a village filled with smoke, whispers, and two women too proud to see the fire. When Obina and Chijioke arrived in the city, the noise, cars, and concrete towers felt like another world compared to Nduko's dust and silence. They walked for a while before stopping in front of a gated mansion with marble lions flanking the entrance. Chijioke stared at the house. "Whose place is this?" Obina smiled faintly. "Ours." He brought out a small remote and pressed it. The electronic gate slid open with a low hum. They walked in slowly, Chijioke still confused. Inside, they were greeted by Ifeanyi, the assistant who had orchestrated the entire plan. "Welcome back, sir," he said, bowing. "The staff have been briefed." Chijioke looked around. A swimming pool shimmered in the backyard, and 3 luxury cars gleamed under a garage awning. "I don't understand, Dad," he said. "You said you were broke." Obina exhaled deeply. "We were never broke, son. I gave up everything for a while to test the people closest to me, to see who loved the man, not the money." Tears filled Chijioke's eyes. "And now?" Obina placed a hand on his shoulder. "Now we rebuild, just the two of us for now." Back in Diyuko, Amaka and Chioma believed they had found freedom. Amaka had resumed visits to Chief Ugachukwu until one day she arrived to find his house locked. Word had spread, the chief had been arrested for land fraud and fake gold trading. The lodge receptionist, Ngozi, confirmed it with a shrug. "They said the gold chain wasn't even brass. EFCC took him." Amaka's knees gave way. He promised me a house. He said I'd be queen. Chioma wasn't doing any better. Mazi Kalechi's wife had reported her to the village elders. The scandal was now public knowledge. The local youth mocked her as second-hand slay queen, and no one bought her city girl act anymore. With nothing left but their pride in stories, Amaka and Chioma sat under the mango tree one afternoon, staring into the horizon. "I never thought we'd end like this," Amaka murmured. "We're not ending," Chioma snapped. "We just fell behind." They didn't know that Obina and Chijioke were no longer behind, but far ahead. Word traveled fast. A trader from the city came to Ndioko, talking about a new mansion being built in Asokoro by none other than Obinna Nwoke. The villagers gasped. Grace, overhearing this, laughed bitterly. "The man is a security guard. I know where he is. Don't be fooled." But Uncle Ikenna, a known town gossip, had seen it with his own eyes. Gate or no gate, he walked in like a lion. "That house is his." Amaka refused to believe it until she saw a photo online. Obina and Chijioke in front of a shining SUV, both dressed in matching caftans. Chioma's mouth fell open. "That's not photoshopped." "I know that background," she said slowly. Reality hit like a truck. "We laughed at them," Amaka whispered. "Mocked them. And now, they're back on top." She swallowed hard, pride choking her like dust in her throat. One afternoon, a letter arrived. Simple brown envelope, handwritten. It was from Obina. Inside was an invitation. Not a revenge note, not a boast, just this. "I built a new home. You are welcome, but not as wife or daughter, only as a guest if you've learned what truly matters. Obina." Amaka stared at it for hours. Chioma refused to speak. The invitation felt heavier than iron. A chance, but with a price. Days passed. They didn't go. Pride still ruled their hearts like an angry queen refusing to abdicate. "I'm not begging any man," Amaka said, "especially not one who made me suffer." Chioma nodded, but her eyes betrayed her. They had a chance, but chose silence. Months later, Obina's company, Terralink, announced its IPO. Media outlets called it the biggest tech success in West Africa. Obina declined interviews. He preferred quiet evenings on his balcony, sipping palm wine beside his son. Chijioke had grown taller, wiser. He helped manage the foundation they created, Home Before Wealth, an initiative supporting broken families and rural education. One evening, as they watched the sunset, Chijioke asked, "Do you miss them?" Obina sighed. "I miss who I thought they were." Chijioke nodded. "Do you think they'll ever come back?" "If they do," Obina said, "I'll welcome them. But they must come without pride." In Ndioko, Amaka sat beneath the mango tree, wrinkled invitation in her lap. Chioma scrolled through her old photos, now with 0 likes. They had once been queens in mansions, but traded their crowns for gold dust and empty mirrors. Obinna, now king and quiet, had found the crown that mattered most. Peace, purpose, and the son who never left his side. The end. What did you think this story? Was Obinna right to test his family like that? Did Amaka and Chioma deserve a second chance? And what would you have done in Chijioke's shoes? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. We'd love to hear your take on loyalty, pride, and the true meaning of wealth. If you enjoyed this powerful story of betrayal, redemption, and silent strength, give us a thumbs up, share with your friends, and subscribe for more gripping African tales that reflect real-life lessons. Don't forget to turn on notifications so you never miss an episode. Thank you for watching, and remember, true crowns are not worn on the head, but in the heart.